We are starting soon.
I believe this is correct.
Presto.
Hello and welcome back to the Album Book Club. Tonight we are going to be reviewing Purest Expression by the Gamels. And Carl, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing good too. I'm glad to be back. It's been a fat second, guys. I believe this album came out just a couple months ago in August. And this is their first album, correct?
Yes.
Okay, think so. Yep. Connor says yes.
And I know you know a little bit more about them than I do. So if you'd like to give us some of the background that you found earlier.
Everything I could find, I got off Bandcamp. So it's essentially a two-person band. There's a kind of a programmer, beats maker, and then a guitar player. And then they have a bassist, vocalist on this album, and there's a couple features by piano and saxophone. They're based out of Finland. They say it's electronic music with a lot of different other influences, including jazz and psychedelic blues. A lot of different electronic influence as well. We'll talk about that as we go through.
All right. And if we want to get right into it, let's start with our top three. For me, my number one song was Sig Break. Then it was Bittersweet. Then it was Countryside.
I had $64 Question, then Bittersweet, then Solace.
I had Redeemer, then International Meetings, then Bittersweet.
I had Bittersweet, Sig Break, then Last Call.
All right. And let's get into our bottom song. Mine was Baltimore.
Sorry, I didn't write that down. I suck. Hold on.
Forgetting your job, brother.
Oh my God, I know.
Gosh darn legal pad guy.
Countryside.
How dare you?
Yeah, Countryside was my.
My bottom song was Baltimore.
My bottom song was Purest Expression.
All right, and well, let's get into the individual song rankings. Song number one was called Roll It, and I gave it a 7.5 out of 10.
Gave it an 8.
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I gave this a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think for me, I thought this was a nice kind of chill groove track. I like the vibe that came along to it, and immediately it puts you into the mood where, okay, you know that this is going to be vibe music pretty much the whole time. I think it sets up the album in a really nice way. The lyrics are a little bit goofy, though, if you sit down and listen to them. Outside of that, that's like one of my only gripes with the song.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily say goofy, but the lyrics were definitely repetitive.
Yes.
That was one of my minuses, but I think that's part of the vibe of the genre. Whether or not there's real lyrics or samples on this, they're treated very much like samples. So they're kind of small segments repeated or chopped up. That's just part of the music, I think. I did like in the solo on this one, I wrote there was a really interesting like dueling guitar solo where there were two different guitar tracks like interplaying on each other. That was a really cool thing.
Yeah, the very first time I listened to this, I was kind of annoyed with the sample just being repeated over and over again. But then after a full run through the album and going back, I was like, okay, I get it, and it's good. And then after my second time, it was stuck in my head all week. So it ended up moving up, I think, a full point after that.
I definitely don't hate this song. I think it's just truly not a genre I love to explore a whole lot. And thus, it was just the vocals were like not my favorite thing in the world. It just kind of, it did not settle right in my ears at the time. They were good, just not for me, I guess.
And that's fair enough. So let's get into song number 2, Bittersweet. I gave this one an 8 out of 10.
I give this one a 9.
I gave this one an 8 out of 10.
I gave this one a 9.
All right. This is where the vibes, they crank it to 11. The groove is there. It was something that I was really able to just kind of sit back and enjoy. And that was great. I thought that this was a great thing to have kind of in the background while I'm doing something else. And I couldn't resist kind of stop looking at it so critically and to, like, just reel back, sit back, and enjoy the thing for what it is.
Yeah, this was definitely more of a jam, I think, than the last tune. I think that's how it ended up in my top 3. This was just such a vibe, such a jam, and this is something that will definitely make it onto some of the, I guess, like, I won't call it background music, but music I listen to when I'm relaxing playlist kind of thing. I really enjoyed the vocals on this one. That was a big plus. And I enjoyed how they kind of switched up the groove in a couple spots. That's something I'll probably complain about a couple times later.
Yeah, I think the vocals throughout this album, I think the ones that have them are the standout tracks for me. But this one made it maybe 5 seconds before it was on a playlist. And also I really liked the effects that were on some of these guitars, and then the solo at the end was really cool. I'm waiting for Logan to tell me I'm wrong, but
I gave this a higher score than you
Yeah.
on me.
I just always write that down when I say anything about guitar.
It does feel that way sometimes.
They're like, this guitar is great. You're like, actually, you're wrong. It sucked.
That's just my opinion sometimes. But no, I thought the guitar was very fun. The bass was very groovy. The vocals were just immaculate. This got about 30 seconds in before it made a playlist. It was just a vibe. I was like actually like moving my shoulders and shit, like dancing at my desk to this. And that's an immediate good vibes. Good time.
All right. Well, let's move on to track number 3, the title track, Purest Expression. I give this one a 6.5 out of 10.
I give this one an 8.
Gave this one a 7.5.
I gave this a 4.
Wow.
I think you're going to have
Yeah.
to explain yourself
go
there,
ahead.
Logan.
I hate the drums, man.
Bruh. Okay. I'm going to fight you on this one. Amen
too.
break is like the most important thing in any electronic genre. It's like it's the thing that kind of defined a lot of this music, at least from what I understand. I'm not huge into electronic, but Amen break is the drum sample from a song called Amen Brother. I think the Winstons, something like that. But it's a very important thing, and you have heard it on hundreds, if not thousands, of tracks. It is just one of those things. You'll probably know it from the Powerpuff Girls theme song. It's the exact same drum sample, just a little slower. It's just super important to the whole genre. So while I understand it being kind of grating, I guess would be the right word, it's kind of a thing that you have to understand why it's there. But without it, I don't think they do a lot of. You pretty much have to have it to be an electronic album. That's what I'm saying. It kind of like, with the genres they were doing, it really belongs here. It comes back later. It's on one of the other tracks too.
It happens 2 more times.
Yeah,
I
it's
believe
two
you're
more
right,
times
yeah.
on this album.
Yeah.
But Carl, you just stole that Powerpuff Girls note from me. I
Oh, yeah?
said that right at, like, while I was listening to this. I'm like, this sounds like the fucking Powerpuff.
It is.
Girls
It's the
theme
same drum beat. So the name of the song is definitely Amen Brother. I just don't remember what the break is. I'll look it up while someone else is talking.
Yeah, I liked the vibe switch. This is where it kind of proves that it is an electronic album, because the first 2 tracks kind of don't do that as much. But I really like the bass tone on this one. The drums, I love it. I've said it in multiple different reviews talking about these kind of drums. I've never gotten what they are right, but yeah, the main thing was at the end of the song, I was like, okay, this is an electronic album. First 2 tracks did not have me thinking that, but I think Carl's still looking. I'm trying to pat.
No,
it.
I got you. So no,
Okay.
it's
I mean-
called Amen Brother by the Winstons.
Mm.
Is the name of the track. It's on a lot of really, really famous things from the 80s on up. But in like jungle and drum and bass, it is like the thing. That it's the sound, and it's chopped up and reused and all sorts of stuff is done to it. But this is a pretty straightforward one, just dropped in.
Yep. My notes. I just wanted to bring up the Powerpuff Girl thing because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only person that was gonna like think about that even. But I think the bass carries a really nice groove through here.
It does. Yep.
And then the thing about it for me, I feel like the beginning is pretty drawn out. And it kind of took me out of the track a little bit. Like I didn't want a full minute and a half of just the drums and a little bit of something else. I forgot what was going on. I think it was just the drums and the bass at the start. So I was kind of disappointed that this is like the title track. Like it kind of just didn't live up to expectations. It was just kind of there for me outside of that. Like it lost half a point because I felt like the beginning was drawn out and then the rest of it was fine. But I was kind of disappointed because it's the title track. I was expecting more, especially with how the first two set it up.
I don't know. I usually disagree with what things are supposed to be the title track on albums. I think we talk about that a lot. But in this case, I feel like this was the most, I guess, stereotypical song from what I expected when I see an electronic album. This is what I expect to hear. So I think it made sense on this one, but oddly enough.
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of electronics, so I didn't really know what I was getting into while I was getting into it.
Makes
All right.
sense.
And I think that's everyone. Are we ready to move on to song number 4?
I believe so.
All right. I believe it's called Countryside, and I gave it an 8 out of 10.
I gave this one a 7.
Gave this one a 7.5.
I gave this a 6.5.
I can take it because mine's easy. It's back to the vibe from earlier in the album, and the piano solo is nice. Other than that, I don't know if it is short, but it feels short. And I had that thought about a lot of songs in this album, even though I would look back and they're like 3.5, 4 minutes. I'm like, that felt like a minute and a half track.
There are some tracks on here where you only get like 2 minutes or something like that. 2.5
There's one
minutes.
or two. Yeah, there's a couple.
I think this one is on like the 3-4 minute side.
I think every time I wrote it down, it was like a 3.5 to 4 minute song.
Okay, yeah. For me, the piano here is all I really cared about. I locked in on that, and I was like, that's awesome. I love that feature. And then, like, swinging us straight back into the vibes made me happy again. I'm like, oh, sweet, they're back. And the saxophone here, because I could... Is this one of the songs that it has that weird filter on it?
I think so, and that's what we were talking about, because I had to look up and see if there was a sax player on this album. And I think it was there's filters and stuff going on, and whether or not the sax track is live or whether it's chopped up, there's a lot of that kind of sound manipulation to make it sound more electronic, even when it's not. And that's super common for this genre. In fact, we'll talk about it with the next song. They do it to the vocals, but it's just a very normal thing for this genre. But it was really cool in this track. They did a really good job with the effect. The only thing I wrote is that the ending was really cool on this one too. The way it ended was. I didn't expect it. I really liked it.
Well, yeah, that's when it came back in with little bits at the end.
Yeah.
Like randomly. I didn't note about that, how it kind of freaked me out, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, to be completely honest, it just came and went, man. Sat there for like 5 minutes thinking about it, and went back, listened to it again. Just gave up on it. So it wasn't a bad song. It's just I'm out of genre.
Yeah.
I'm on the opposite side of like electronic music, like to the point of pushing club music. So
I can find you some stuff. We got some cool stuff I can show you.
yeah, I'll check it out.
It's one of those things you kind of have to be ready to delve into. And I actually wrote that down later. I think this was a cool entry point album for a lot of people, just because it's such a melting pot. That for a lot of other people, it could be a good intro to something a little more electronic, because there's so many familiar things.
I was gonna say I'm not super big into it, but I think way more than Logan. But like this was great for what I already know in genre. So
Cool. Well, that brings us on to track number 5, Redeemer. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
7.5.
I give this one a 9 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
All right, Carl, immediately with your last note, how you were talking about the vocals, that's my first thing here. I thought the female vocals was great, but some of the stuff that they do to her vocals and how it twinges, it feels almost wrong, but also it's kind of cool.
So it was really cool because in the intro they like squeezed it a little.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they'd done, it kind of chopped it in a little bit to make it sound almost like radio voice. And then if you noticed when the track started to kick in, it opened up and fully kicked. So it was only when the vocals were super exposed that it was there. Because I originally wrote that I didn't love the vocal effect, and then when they pulled it out, it was like, oh, it was all for a reason. You know, it was all to make that difference when it came back in.
Yeah, for me at the start, I was like, are these vocals out of tune? I wasn't picking up on it as much.
Yeah.
And then when they really opened up, it's like, oh, that's what's going on. That's really cool. You know, I was kind of on the fence at whether I liked this song or didn't. And then it all opened up. It all made sense. And I'm like, that's a good track.
Yeah, I really liked vocals and bass were the standout, but they also, oh, I thought you were pointing at me. They also threw like a club beat in there towards the middle, which usually I would be against, but I thought it worked really well here. And I did like the effects on the voice didn't throw me as much as I guess it threw Carson, but I did like it.
I did write that it had boots and cats at the end.
It did.
That's the kind of the electronic music faux pas, I guess, but that's the other one, is the boots and cats vibe.
Yeah, I thought the intro to this song was very fun. There's a lot of energy. It's really cool. The bass was good throughout. I think the bass on this album is just standout, killer. And then I think the vocal lines specifically, just like the way they're delivered, are just very fun. There's just something fun. There's something cool about it. The drums I thought were fun, but they just didn't fit the rest of what was going on exactly when they kind of switched up in the middle.
There's
but it wasn't bad. I had fun with it, but it was just a little askew from what was being sang.
I think there's a lot of that in this genre. I think just because there's so many things overlaying. I think that the high energy drums with the laid back on top of it is kind of strange sometimes. I definitely agree with you there. The other thing I wrote was the chord changes on this track were killer. Some of the way they did the chord structure was just not what I expected. To a point to write it down. That's pretty rare for me to make a point about the song structure, but this one had a cool structure to it. Maybe it was just the vocal line. Maybe that's how it was written.
All right. Is that it from everybody?
I believe so.
All right. Let's move on to song number 6, International Meetings. I gave this a 7.5 out of 10.
I gave this one a 7.
I give this one an 8.5.
I gave this a 6.5. Why the fuck is Joe Biden here?
I was going to ask about that.
What the fuck?
Was that what it was? Was a Joe Biden sample?
I don't even think it's is it a sample? I straight up thought it was Joe Biden AI. Because I was
No,
like,
it's
this is
definitely a
just
sample.
so like fried and affected.
I was going to say, they had put a ton of effects on it. And I was going to ask and confirm that it's Joe Biden, but
I'm like 99% sure that's
yeah,
who it is.
I was too.
But also, did I miss something in the 5 prior songs that this was a political statement of an album? Or did it start here?
What I mean, I didn't think the sample was saying anything.
Yeah, I think it was just him.
Oh.
I thought
Well,
it was
'cause,
just
like,
a yap. I didn't think it was
Yeah.
like a.
I thought it was like Baltimore. One of the songs later got
It's
like a little
Baltimore?
more. Yeah, it got like a little more political.
Yeah, you're thinking
Yeah,
about
it's-
Baltimore.
So it made me confused as to if this was a political album and if I just missed like a bunch of shit.
Yeah, this is actually the one I was talking to you about earlier, where I thought the sampling here was kind of neat. It reminded me of like the MF Doom's or Face style of sampling.
Mhm.
I think switching back into the vibe is really great. I really had a fun time with this one. Outside of the sampling, though, it's kind of basic. It's kind of just like there. That's why I couldn't really give it above a 7.5.
Yeah, but there was also a really cool, like really subtle, but a really well done stereo effect on the guitars, mainly in the beginning, but it carried on throughout a little bit. And also, what was the other one? Shit. This is a Dope Lemon track, or it could be 100% a Dope Lemon track.
I did write in here that that guitar is whispering sweet nothings into my ears.
I'll go ahead. I haven't talked about it yet. The whole album is mixed really, really clear for the most part.
Mhm.
There's some muddy lower mids and a whole lot of reverb, which is not my thing, but it's kind of stylistically correct, I guess, because I mean it sounds good on the track. It's just so much more reverb than I would have ever thought to put on something like this. But they just mixed on a different system than I listened back to. That's all it takes to be a muddy mix. You know, it just could have been listened to on a couple other things. I was really impressed with the overall mix quality on this album. It's probably the best one that I remember, at least.
I didn't have any like specific notes about it, but it was one of the first things I noticed when I like pre-listened to the first song when we first got it suggested. I was like, damn, the mix is good.
All right, well, that brings us into song number 7, my number 1 track, Sig Break, 9 out of 10.
I give this one a 7.
Oh, fuck you.
I gave this a 6.75.
Give this one an 8.
Oh, you two saxophone haters. That's all it is about for me. Like, that saxophone, I just love hearing it. I was in a great mood, great vibe. Even with, like, the weird effects going on throughout.
And I think that's what
I did not care about the effects. They washed straight into the nothingness because I was listening to a saxophone sound really good with this nice, like, airy but still soulful tone. Ugh. It's like just impressive musicianship.
Yeah, so you'll always lose points for me when it gets slower. That's the thing I don't like as a drummer. Nothing should ever get slower. But I did like the vibe change in this one. My note was that it felt like the samples were over-affected. And I think that was part of the thing with this track. I think that was just what they were going for. But it almost sounded like it was over-mixed, like they were reaching too far for some of the stuff on. It was probably the sax, because I didn't, at this point, I still thought it was a sax sample they were using. So that would make sense.
Carson, let me defend just a little bit. This one's kind of almost an interlude. And the only real note I have written is nice saxophone.
Okay, it's acceptable.
It's short. It's like almost interlude. I'm not counting it as an interlude, but it didn't do enough, I guess. The effects I didn't have really a problem with. I thought the saxophone was cool. It's a good vibe track, but it's really not long enough to go anywhere. But I mean, it's fine.
I think that this was a great song because it came right when I was getting burnt out. It came right when I was like, I'm done. Like, I just want to stop listening for a second. And then I get this. So I get to sit there and be like, oh, thank God I'm in the elevator. I'm just chilling. And it was just very relaxing. I mean, this is what would ideally be playing if I walked into some hipster coffee shop looking the way I do. I don't go there.
I think the album art was taken in front of a hipster coffee
Yeah, it's
shop.
like, I think that that's probably their target demographic. I look like that. I'm not that.
I either thought it was that or a bar because of the last song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get the laid-back vibe of somewhere like that. The other note that I'll say is this song had one of the best fades ever, to the point where I almost thought this track and the next track should have been just one track. Like, this could have been an intro to the next, because the fade was just perfect. I mean, the next song literally starts building before this one ends, and then it just hits full on.
I wish I could have heard it. We'll get into it in the next track, but I meant to bring this up earlier. I had a bit of a technical error multiple times in this album that had nothing to do with the album, but...
Okay, well, let's get into that next track. Track number 8, Baltimore. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
We gave it a 7.
I gave it a 6.5.
I gave it a 6.5.
I can go first. But also, I'll give my little story here. Apple Music was bugging all day throughout this album. Like 4 or 5 times, it just skipped songs for no reason. And not like shuffled songs, just went to the next one and didn't play this one, didn't play Redeemer, and there's a couple more later that it just skipped.
So, funny anecdote for me, I had to completely close out my Apple Music and reload it for it to play Redeemer. It was just not letting me play the song. I hit pause and unpause several times. I skipped to the next song and went back. Next song started playing. Redeemer didn't. So it might have been one of those things where it was trying to play and it couldn't, and it just skipped the track.
say I didn't have any of that, but it would just skip over it, and then when I went and clicked on it, it was fine. But
We were all trying to listen to the same song at the
They-
same
they-
exact time, and it
might
said,
have
"Fuck
overloaded.
you."
But yeah, I felt like this one was really chill. Too chill a little bit for me. There's just not a whole lot of substance for someone like me who's like not super into electronic to latch onto. But what's there is nice. I think it sounds nice, and it's just, I guess the last track, I kind of built me up to expect more like expressive instruments. You know, hearing these like really expressive instrumentation pieces. I think that would have been cool if we got more of that.
Yeah, the groove does feel slow on this one, but we do get a glorious build. The build throughout the piece and the way, almost the orchestration of the composition kind of keeps building throughout the track is really cool. The vocals are gorgeous. The guitar tone's great. I just can't give it any higher than a 7 because Baltimore is probably one of my least favorite places on the face of the planet. And they don't know that because they're Finnish, so it's not their fault. But Baltimore is an absolute crap hole. And yeah, so that's why I got a 7.
Baltimore haters.
I think we got to do an ad read or
Oh,
something.
shit. My bad. I was waiting for Connor to go. My apologies. Yeah, my problem with this song is there's like zero flash. Like, I thought Sig Break was my break, and then I was going right back into it. You don't have a Sig Break and then not go back to your job. You don't do Sig Break, then water break. Nah, man.
Dude, I don't know what you're on about. You have to poop as soon as you smoke that cig. And considering that Baltimore is the poop, that makes total sense.
I mean, how it goes is water break, sig break, water break. That way you're maximizing your breaks. But then after that, you have to take a piss break.
What do you mean? It just goes really long smoke break.
No,
And
that
then
can
you
be in the
walk-
middle too.
Well, it's like really long smoke break, and then you have like intellectual conversations that start about work and then always end up about like aliens or JFK or some shit. That
Or
happened
they-
today.
Or they end up about our new hats. Well, not really new, but they end up about our hats. We have hats. They look like this. They're awesome. They're super durable. I wear mine to work all the time, and I do construction, so mine still looks pretty perfect.
Yeah, and
So-
they're not made by the lizard government that lives in Antarctica, so that's always a plus if we're
Yep.
talking about secret governments.
We have real human-made hats.
Also, I've been saying it for like 2 months. We are making a new merch drop. I'm going to make them do it tonight. All right, I think we're good.
Okay, well, let's move on to track number 9, $64 question. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
9.
I gave it a 7.
I gave it a 7.
All right, let me defend. I just felt like it was a little plain.
I feel very much the opposite.
I think it's because you're a lot more in tune with what to listen for.
Maybe. So, and that's what I have a ton of notes on this one because there were so many little things that I caught in it. And if you weren't listening for them, I feel like you may not have gotten it. And, honestly, this whole album might be like that after a second listen. I might have a completely different opinion because there's a lot of intricacies hidden in this. A lot of time was spent. I don't know. I can go now or one of you guys. I can explain it. Amen break again. It's fine. I loved this track. This was my number 1 track. They sped up the Amen break, so we got that kind of punch we were looking for out of it. There was a really cool sample before the initial drop when the track actually hit. Was really, really awesome. I loved the chords. The sample was funny. The second drum sample was good. It ended with a piano lid being slammed. It had all of my favorite things, just random samples places. This is one of those tracks that I was like, cool, this will go. And it did. It immediately was on a playlist like 30 seconds in. The only thing, the mix was really guitar heavy in my ears. And I get it. You want the guitar to be heard. But between that and the guitar verb being so much, those are my only complaints.
I do have something in here about the guitar being the loudest thing.
Yeah, and it was just kind of weird because the rest of the album is so well kind of pieced together that I didn't expect the guitar to stick out like that.
And it's funny about the drum note you keep bringing up. I have it in here a couple times where I'm like, those drums seem pretty like used before. Like I've heard these a lot before. Mm-hmm. So I kept calling it like basic or like a simple decision. And now that I know that it's a reference to something in the genre, I think it's a lot cooler than how I labeled it in my notes. So I haven't said anything about it until now.
Yeah, I didn't have too much to say about this. I didn't do like, I didn't know to listen to everything that Carl did, but I love these drums. I liked the vocal sample, and everything else is just good. I liked this song, and that's really all there was. I mean, a lot of these made a playlist, and this is no exception.
I still hate these drums, but this was just vibey space music. I did not like the vocal lines. I'm sure they are very important. I could not make them out, nor did I want to, because I did not like where they were. So, but it was not a bad song. Good song, fun song. It's definitely one that you can like space out, zone out, just listen. Not listen, but like listen.
I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's get into song number 10, Solace. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
8.5.
7.5.
6.5.
All right, I'll do mine first because it's pretty easy. It is a thumbs up plus. I thought some of the stuff going on was really cool, but overall, it was just kind of here for me. I sat back, I enjoyed it, and I had a good time.
But there's a saxophone, Carson.
I know I
You're
have
the
it in.
saxophone guy.
Okay, hold on. Here, if I really had to pull it up, really dig the sax and the vibe, but that's all this song is. A thumbs up plus.
You saxy man, you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was super happy with this track again. The vibe and the groove were there. The reverb was really heavy on this one, but it fit the track. The thing that gave it the 0.5 point boost was the B section. The B section was really cool on this one.
I was going to say, I hit the wrong button. Drums throughout, I liked. There was this weird, like, kind of choppy synth at the end that I liked. The beat switch in the middle was the best part, and the saxophone was good.
Drums, didn't like them. I think ironically enough, every time Connor's had a note, I have also had a note.
This boy over here loves Polyphia with all their beat boop drums, and yet doesn't like the amen break.
I don't listen to Polyphia for the drums. I listen for the guitar. It's just, I don't know. This song just had me feeling sad, and I was like, this is not how I felt the rest of the album. Wasn't vibing with it, but it was not bad. I think if this definitely just came on and shuffle, it's probably better like at a different place other than track 10 on maybe an electronic album. I think this is the one album where you kind of don't really need a wind down and you don't need a last song. You just kind of need a song.
Yeah, that's a really good segue into the next song, actually.
Yeah, next song is song number 11, The Last Call. Or it's just called Last Call.
It's just
8
Last
out of
Call.
10.
I gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8.
Holy, 8 across the board.
We did it, boys. Finally.
Finally, we all agree. Song's an 8. I thought it had a really nice groove. I fucked with pretty much the whole piece, and how chill it is kind of helps with the length, because this is a longer song.
Like
I think it found... Yeah, it's like 5.5, 6.
5.5.
I think it found a really nice
It's not that
balance
long.
between length and like how long they allow you to sit back and enjoy the music.
Logan just got wrecked in the chat. That's all.
He did.
What happened?
Logan, how are you going to recover from this?
I'm just going to quit. Man,
Oh
I'm
my
done.
God, Logan!
My wife and kids are gone. I'm in shambles.
Alex is taking them.
Okay, I was gonna say this song title is stupid because there's a band named after it that's not so great.
Oh man,
But I'm totally just joking. So
I did put W title.
no, I other than that, I really liked the congas in this song too. I really liked the percussion sample. We got a few of them on the tracks on this album, but the guitar sounds good, the vocals sound good. I liked the build throughout. This was a great way to end this album.
You know what's crazy? Apple Music also tried to skip this song. It was like, yeah, Solace, that's the end. We're done. We're done here. But this one does a really cool thing at the end where it almost kind of flows back into the beginning of the album. I thought that was cool. So like does the little one slowed down hit of the roll it sample.
Yeah, because he says roll it again.
Yeah.
So he wanted it to be a loop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is I had my auto play on Apple Music, Yeah, it rolled it again. I didn't have repeat on. I never press repeat. I have shuffle on normally. I turned that off and just left on the autoplay. But it autoplayed it back at the start because it tripped me the fuck up.
This song was also very close to making it in my top 3. Like, it was a last minute. I think it was written there for a second, and then last minute I switched it back to Bittersweet.
I saw the title and it was in my top 3.
All right, well, let's get into the pacing of this album. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really easy listen. What? Did I
Sorry.
do it in the wrong order?
We do
I mean, we
group
usually
time.
say our numbers, but
We do group numbers.
Y'all didn't
shares.
say anything. Y'all didn't
We
move
didn't
on from
say
me.
anything.
It's okay.
I said 8 out of 10, and
Well,
then we
you
went
gave zero
immediately.
pause, bro.
It's,
You're
it's
like-
okay. It's because I was marking out flow and putting pacing because I just like my brain is struggling, man. No, I also gave it an 8.
I gave it a 9.
I gave it an 8.
Oh right, but it was a really easy listen for the most part. I found it kind of hard to get through some of the parts that were really strung out without getting thrown off the groove. But everything flows nicely into each other. It's very well paced, like throughout the whole album. I think that some of the songs are individually very well paced. But like outside of some of the slow bits that you get in songs, it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. You know, I really liked listening to this as an album. That's something that this really felt like. As much as I'll enjoy putting a couple songs on playlists and doing a couple things here and there, this was meant to be turned on and left on. And for me, that's something that means it's a really high score in pacing. When something paints a whole picture together as one kind of coherent thing, you know, there were a few hiccups in between songs. There were a few things that happened, and you know, I don't hate any of that stuff, but the overall picture was really good together. Which
Okay, you said which. I thought there was more.
I don't know. It's probably the end of a sentence with it. I don't know how to speak English.
Yeah, I've had a couple of times. Like, I know last weekend I had this whole album on while I was cleaning the house, and it flows. Well, I can't say flows. That's the wrong word. But it's paced in a way where you can listen start to finish, and I don't have any even ounce of getting sick of any of these songs, really. I think if you're listening to it as a whole, it's pretty perfectly paced. And also, I feel like we only give things 6 and 7s and maybe 4s in pacing ever.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you either get right or you don't. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like an 8 is just it's such a superficial number. The real honest answer is pacing good or is pacing okay or is pacing bad, and it's good on this one. I mean, I got a little burnt out, but I think it's because today's vibe was not it. I mean, it was like not the warmest of days outside. So it was just electronic music, cold weather, terrible mix.
I don't
But-
disagree with that.
It was still a good album nonetheless. And you know, when I did have that burnout, Sig Break was there in the perfect spot. So it was like they already thought ahead. It was just maybe could have shaved off like maybe 3 minutes. Kept it like under the 40-minute mark. And you're just cutting out some of the fat or like
Some of the slow bits of the songs.
yeah, just some of the stuff that's been repeated, and this is the 6th or 7th time it's been repeated. Cut out an extra little bit.
Like all those beats that you didn't like, all those drums.
Yeah, cut out that.
Just cut out that really important reference.
Those all 2 of those songs I said I didn't like the drums to.
You know, I will say that that's probably something that's really common with this album. Genre. With this genre is things are designed to be listened to as a whole album. Unless you're listening to something that's like a compilation, you're going to get something that's really coherent. That tends to be pretty normal, and the way that this album was designed is pretty normal too. The way it's designed to be listened to, and a lot of other people could take notes from that part of this. I mean, they did it really, really well.
All right. Well, that brings us into the album art. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I agreed with you. Gave it a 7.
7 out of 10.
I gave this a 7.5.
I think you're gonna have to explain. That's a little crazy.
I think it's just a vibe. Also, the font reminds me of Camel cigarettes. Don't know if it's supposed to.
It's
That's
supposed
what
to.
it looks
Yeah.
like.
It's
and
supposed to.
I think they got the vibe pretty much. I mean, maybe not the electronic vibe. If I saw that, I would kind of assume more like, I don't know, Nashville bar band. But that's because of Camel cigarettes.
Oh well, then you get the song "Last Call," and it sounds even more like a bar band.
Yeah, that's true. If I saw Last Call on that list, and Baltimore would have me question it. But
You just didn't know they were Finnish. You just couldn't see it from the picture.
that's the thing. Yeah, they don't. they don't look super Finnish in their photo.
Yeah, if
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I don't know what a Finnish. I've never met a Finnish person.
someone's gonna correct us, I swear that the correct term is a Finn, but I feel like I'm gonna be corrected. So
A Finnish.
yeah,
Too close to my last name.
but they out of them that's the four. I didn't. There was no notes of who was who, but I'm assuming the girl on the cover was Jenny who did the vocals, and I'm assuming it's Otto, Samuli, and Joe are the other three, which is the bass player, the beat guy, and the guitarist. I think it's them. I mean, it doesn't look like three random people. They look like they're involved here somehow.
We're just gonna get a DM that's like, no, those are complete random strangers we found.
Yeah, we just found this random stock image and we used it because we thought it looked cool.
It's totally fine. I love being corrected in comments. Really,
Oh yeah, it's pretty neat to
Them-
actually figure out when we're speaking ignorance.
I thought you were gonna say you love stalking people and taking photos of them.
Whoa,
No,
Logan, we
that's-
aren't asking about your hobbies.
We're asking about their hobbies.
Uh-huh. Are you gonna speak?
Nope.
I was like, Carson?
Oh well, I thought he pulled his microphone into his face like he was gonna talk.
Nope.
Oops. No, yeah, it's just kind of like a standard picture with a neat font. That's why I gave it a 7. It looks nice, but like, I kind of got the vibe, kind of didn't. Didn't get the electronic stuff. I agree with you there, Logan.
I was gonna say, if you're just looking off of the picture, the drums in the third track are gonna throw you a little bit, but once you figure out what it is, it's gonna make sense.
That's exactly what happened to me while I was listening to this. Once we hit the third track, I was like, why?
That's why I looked it up on Bandcamp to find out what genre it was.
You got to go in completely blind so that your album art score can make sense.
Well, do we want to pad for time, or do we want to get right into overall?
I don't know.
We already talked about the weather.
Talked about the weather and the hat, so there's really nothing else. we can
All
pad
right,
for.
well, let's get into the overall for the album. I think
It's like
for
only
me,
two things.
the overall for the album, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yep, it was an 8.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave this one a 7.
No,
That's fine. You didn't like it. It's not for you.
Yeah, honestly. It's just not my
It's
taste.
fair.
it's not on your TikTok For You page.
No.
Nowhere near. Yeah, for me, I really dug the album. I don't get to listen to electronic music a lot because I'm not super into the genre. So hearing some of the effects that you don't get to hear often, I think that's really cool. Especially some of the sampling they did here. It reminded me of some of my other favorite artists. So I had a pretty good time throughout the whole thing. I only had gripes with some spots, but it was such an easy listen that I would just want to throw this on again, listen to the whole thing while I'm like painting or doing something else like that.
Yeah, and that's what I said it earlier. I think this would be a great entrance into, I guess, seeing whether or not you like the electronic genre. Really, Logan clearly doesn't, but you can kind of use this as a judge to be kind of a gateway, because there's a lot of things you recognize in it already. There's a lot of jazz influence and some like blues and stuff going into it. So it just made for a really nice listen, a really great bunch of things. And I won't say I'm super versed in electronic music, just I guess a little more than the rest of you guys.
I was going to say, I'm about as deep into electronic music as you need to be to really like this album. So I had a good time start to finish, and I will listen to this again.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely throw it on and just, listen to it. But it's not bad by any means. No, I don't dislike it. I don't think I would skip a single track either. It's just not one I want to sit down and like analyze again. You know, I don't want to look for the deeper meaning of this. The deeper meaning is shut the fuck up and listen.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really curious about that sample. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it now because most of this music doesn't have a super deep meaning in it. This genre, at least, it might, but
That's why this guy got confused, man. It's like two political things. It was weird.
Let's say I missed whatever the one in Baltimore was.
I think it might just be circumstantial that it's political.
If it's political, let us know in the comments. Carson has stood up.
He's numb.
Yeah, my ass is numb.
I've become so numb I can barely breathe.
Stand. Ah. All right. We could pad for 13 more minutes or call it a 47-minute episode.
It
Yeah.
wasn't even. We started late too.
Oh,
We didn't
shit.
start late.
Okay. Well, I mean,
We didn't show up on the cameras for like 2 minutes, but that's normal.
I think this album was just really we had what we had to say about it. I think it was so good that we didn't have anything to complain about.
It's also not the longest album of all time. Like I feel like episode or anything under 12 minutes we get, or 12 songs we get around this amount of time anyway. So
Yeah, I feel like if we had an extra
unless we
song,
really hated it,
then we can bitch for a while.
Yeah, then we're here for a while. But
I went on a rant about the Amen break, and I mean I have talked about stuff. I mean it's not like
I think the issue we kind of had with this one was just the fact that it's so like it's hard to not interpret it like, oh, this is a good vibe, I like this, I like that, and then just
Should've
move
got-
on.
we should have got Dylan in for this episode.
It's Dylan,
the album
the-
book club vibrator.
yep the Vibe Raider with a space in the middle, not what Logan said.
Yeah, the album book club vibrator.
Oh, don't forget to change his batteries, boys.
New merch drop coming soon.
Logan, you want to tee us up for next episode?
Oi. Next week we are listening to the Silver Scream by Ice Nine Kills.
Yep.
We're doing one, not two.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, we're doing that next week.
If you want a
For
sneak peek for next year.
Halloween.
What was it? Sorry, say it one more time.
The Silver Scream by Ice Nine Kills.
Silver Scream.
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 Okay, cool.
We are doing the regular version of that.
Because I looked and the other one is 2 extra songs and like 4 live versions.
Not only that, but
It's also 16 when you add all of them. So
well, I
it's
also want to
too much.
listen to the vinyl of this for the rating, and that is the regular edition.
Fair enough.
So we'll see you next week for Halloween. Deuces.